So there has been a long-standing rumor floating around online suggesting that Nintendo is planning some kind of major return for Donkey Kong to the Nintendo Switch because yes, while we do have Tropical Freeze playable on the platform, and by all accounts it is a fantastic 2D action platformer, but that game of course is a port from the Wii U, which was actually released in February 13th of 2014, meaning that as we approach 2023 that we will be talking about a full 9 years since we have seen any kind of new iteration for Donkey Kong in the form of a mainline game. And in today's video, I want to walk down memory lane together, boot up my favorite Donkey Kong game in the entire franchise of all time, and have a broad conversation on how we may see Nintendo handle Donkey Kong's ultimate return in 2023 and beyond. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we are playing my personal favorite Donkey Kong game of all time for many reasons. I personally think it has some of the best level design and platforming ever in a 2D platformer, like period, of all time, and also the soundtrack. I mean, it's literally some of these songs I can just listen to on repeat without fail and enjoy, and I really wanted to revisit this conversation around Donkey Kong and how Nintendo may handle this franchise going forward, because it's kind of an interesting situation we find ourselves in when once upon a time we had multiple Donkey Kong games released on each Nintendo console. I mean, dating back all the way to the NES, but especially in the Super NES era when you had Rare developing Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, and then also transitioning into the N64 era, of course, with DK64, we saw a ton of support for Donkey Kong. GameCube was a little bit of a different place just for the simple fact that they went that rhythm-based route, which was kind of, I guess, not my favorite for Donkey Kong. I really didn't actually play much of those games at all. I never owned them myself, but I did play them at a friend's briefly. So, you know, maybe that's part of the reason I didn't enjoy those as much, but I've always felt like Donkey Kong is one of those staple platformers for Nintendo, and it does seem like he's missing recently, because even though we have some support on the Switch in the way of a Wii U port, as I mentioned, you know, we're talking about 9 years in February. It will be 9 full years since we've had a true brand new Donkey Kong experience. Now, we did see like a gap in time between the GameCube and then what we saw Donkey Kong ultimately come back with Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, which was a fantastic return for DK to come back. And then we had an even better game in Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. And now that's all we have with the Switch. It's still that same game. So something has to be going on with Donkey Kong, right? And I definitely think it's a franchise Nintendo won't just forget about. I am curious if this is kind of aligning with Nintendo's larger strategy, like we've talked about the Mario rumors that, again, I don't buy into based off the source, but I just think it's logical timing that we're going to see a Mario game, whether it be 2D or 3D, sometime soon for the Nintendo Switch, probably as soon as 2023. Does that align with the movie marketing around the Super Mario Bros. Movie? We know Donkey Kong will be in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but is that kind of kicking him off to his own big start? Because we also know that Universal Studios is opening up Nintendo World here in the US in February next year, and we know that Nintendo's going to want a big mainstream push for the movie alongside of that park, and to kind of make it and fresh in every kid's mind that they got to go there and see the new Nintendo attractions. And then you want to cross promote that with the potential for a Nintendo cinematic universe that I think we're going to see open up from these movie projects, which, quick side note, this is these giant areas right here that are optional, have some of the hardest stages in this game. If you actually go through and collect all the Kremlin tokens and give them, like, trade them in order to play through those stages, crazy difficult. This mine level also has one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. But I think we're going to see some strategic promotion around both games cross-promoting these movies with Nintendo Cinematic Universe. And there's also, I believe in Japan, the plan is to expand the Nintendo World theme park with a DK section of that park next. And then do we get something like a DK movie announced, where he's actually the main protagonist in the movie, as opposed to it being the Super Mario movie? It's literally the Donkey Kong movie. Do we see Nintendo go to that level and show that kind of support to DK? I think it makes all the sense in the world. I should have jumped off that barrel before I killed that guy. I think it makes all the sense in the world to do that personally, and I'm hopeful that they do. But then you have to kind of have that conversation about Who is the rumor for a Donkey Kong game being in the works even credible at all? I mean, that's honestly up in the air. I think it's also just one of those topics similar to Mario where it's like, well, surely Nintendo's going to do something with DK, right? They're not just going to leave this blockbuster franchise sitting on the shelf for, 10 plus years, 11 plus years and not do anything with them. But you do have the conversation of who handles the DK game, because Retro right now is working on Metroid Prime 4, we know, and they are the ones who are responsible for Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze and then Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii. Clearly, Nintendo doesn't have Rare in their wheelhouse of developers anymore, so who do they approach and who do they go to develop this game? It could be an in-house studio. That's the rumor, according to the previous sources stating that essentially this new company, this new DK project was supposedly being developed by the same team that does the mainline Super Mario games, meaning like your Odyssey and stuff like that. So is it a 3D Donkey Kong? The rumor was 2.5D. Does it follow some kind of, Kirby and the Forgotten Land type of layout in terms of the camera perspective? We missed the O and I didn't even realize that, but it's all right. We can, this is not going to be a 100% file run. I used to play this game to 100% completion so many times over the years that I'm not going to worry about it this time. But there are, like, you get an exclamation point and then you get a DK coin if you've actually truly found everything in each level. And that's the cool thing about, one of the reasons I think this is honestly one of the best Donkey Kong games is it gets progressively more difficult, which I do enjoy. I like difficulty in games. It has all of that side content, and then it just has like one of the best soundtracks of all time. And that kind of plays into that conversation around what we'll see Nintendo do with either 2D or 3D. I could personally, this might be the nostalgia talking, but I could take release after release of 2D Donkey Kong platformer and be fully happy with it. I'll just be happy to play something new in the form of a Donkey Kong game. I do think that if there was, though, ever a character that probably hasn't realized their full potential yet in terms of a 3D installment, it is also Donkey Kong, because we haven't seen him get that Odyssey level treatment, or even like a Mario Galaxy level treatment. Like, they could really go all out in terms of a 3D platformer with Donkey Kong and tell a really good story with all of the characters that they have established in the franchise. And, all while doing a full-on enjoyable 3D platformer, which is very hard to pull off. You don't see a lot of mainstream popular 3D platformers nowadays. It's not necessarily the type of game that sells well unless if it's something like Mario. And I think that Donkey Kong is the other franchise that could help it sell well. So, we'll have to wait and see ultimately what Nintendo does with this classic franchise, but I'm feeling nostalgic. It's a little bit slow in terms of news around the holiday season, of course, as you would expect it to be, probably all the way through New Year's. We may do a few more, creative gameplay type of videos and talking about some franchises that are missing and need to come back. And that was completely messed up the way the Beetle just came back at me there. We'll see how we're looking on time. But, it's one of those things that I think we'll continue to revisit some of these topics for missing franchises, just because, there's a lot of great things on the Switch, a lot of great support. There's hotly debated topics like, are we getting too many, Fire Emblem and Xenoblade games on the platform, and we're not getting any Donkey Kong or Mario's, or like, there's that side of the spectrum. And I don't necessarily think it's got to be one or the other. I think it can be both, but Nintendo has definitely shown a lot of support for certain franchises on the Switch and not others. And Donkey Kong, unfortunately, is one of the ones that I think is being overlooked. And, maybe it's all part of a broader plan to market it with a movie and a theme world park expansion. That's entirely a possibility, and I'm fully well aware of that. But I also do feel like it's more than likely time in 2023 for Donkey Kong to come back. I don't think we have to wait a full 10-year period to see a return for this franchise. And whether it be 2D or 3D, that's really where I want to hear from you guys the most in the comments, is what you want to see, because I know Donkey Kong 64, it's kind of like one of those cult classics. Like, it didn't really go over in the mainstream as far as I'm aware, in terms of like selling the best and everybody just thinking it was a perfect game. But some people have a ton of nostalgia for that game, myself included. I wouldn't mind seeing just a formula like that for a 3D Donkey Kong. But would you assume them go into a 3D direction and that's really what you want to see? Or do you just want to see more of this great classic 2D side scroller platforming level design that we know, Nintendo with the right studio can just do so well? And would you prefer just to see more of that? Because I could honestly take either one. My big thing on this entire topic, let's see if we can save it. No, we can't. My big thing on this entire topic is I want to see Donkey Kong come back in a big way, and I'm hopeful that 2023 is the year. But I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, all your thoughts and feelings on this topic. Share with me your nostalgia. What's your favorite DK game over all the years, and how do you want to see the franchise ultimately return? And do you think we actually get that answer fulfilled in 2023, something as soon as even the February Nintendo Direct? So regardless of all your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you guys around this topic. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.